This is Kickstarter, a titan in the crowdfunding world which has helped raise over $7 billion for startups and create some of the most influential products and businesses this century. Okay, what happened? You know what? Doesn't matter. Let's try that again. I said they've helped create some of the most influential products and businesses. Where did they all go? Okay, you know what? Never mind that. Yes, the Pebble, a smartwatch which revolutionized the world. Oh, okay. Well, here, the Coolest Cooler, a 21st century cooler which helped. No, that was supposed to be the cooler of the future. Are you telling me everything on Kickstarter is just a hyped up trailer, and when you get the actual product, it'll be an underwhelming piece of trash that'll ultimately be rendered useless when the company goes out of business? So yes. I actually misspoke there. I said everything is just a hyped up trailer, and when you get the actual product, it'll be an underwhelming piece of trash, when I meant to say everything is just a hyped up trailer, and if you get the product, it'll be an underwhelming piece of trash. That's my bad. If you didn't know, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform where people raise money to fund projects ranging from new technology to board games and even TV shows. You can pledge varying amounts towards each project, and in return you receive rewards, which is usually just some version of the product. Essentially, it's just a really early pre-order. Now this part is actually really hard for me to share, but back in the day I was a dumbass. Unfortunately, it's terminal, so I still am pretty dumb. But back in 2016, when the world was not like this, I backed a product on Kickstarter called Voder. Actually, at the time, it was called Dashbot, but then they got sued for copyright infringement, so it became Voder. Now, Voder was an AI car accessory, which in 2016 sounded really cool, and now sounds absolutely horrifying. It was essentially Amazon Alexa for your car before Amazon made Alexa for your car, because that's a thing now. The concept seemed pretty cool, and I was pretty naive, so I handed over $50 along with 3,500 other hopeful idiots with the expectation that in 7 months I would have Voder. And after 7 months, let me show you what they gave me. Nothing. They received $265,000, posted a few updates, and then ghosted us after missing their launch date. The company eventually went out of business, and as per usual, didn't say anything. And at the end of it all, I did not get Voder, nor my money back. The only thing I got was trust issues. So thanks for that. Now I, being a hopeful idiot, thought Kickstarter would step in and save the day, but quite the contrary, because it turns out their official stance is that's a you problem. They say that about 1 in 10 projects fail to deliver, so if you happen to be that 1 in 10, sucks to suck. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really cool with that answer. I lost $56 as a 16-year-old. That was a lot of money. It still is a lot of money. I'm broke. I'll still take that money back. So now, you've forced my hand, Kickstarter. Oh, what's that? Kickstarter CEO Everett Taylor? Are you scared? I don't know. You should have just refunded me that $50. Now I gotta bring out the big guns on ya. Let's talk about everything wrong with Kickstarter. It's important to know Kickstarter is basically just a marketplace for crowdfunding projects. Any person can start a Kickstarter, and as long as it doesn't violate their terms of service, they'll post it. If your far-right uncle wants to start a podcast to uncover the truth, they'll post it. Or if your Facebook-addicted, ultra-religious aunt wants to raise money to hire the National Guard to stop you from grinding at homecoming, they'll post that too. But when your uncle inevitably uses that money to pay his January 6th legal fees, Kickstarter will look the other way because that's your problem. Kickstarter letting anybody start a project sounds great, but it's really one of their 5 main problems. They have no vetting process for founders. And what happens when you give a lot of money to an unreliable source? You get the Coolest Cooler, the largest disaster in Kickstarter's history.
That's the sound of a cooler coming down off the shelf.
Thanks, Ryan. I'll take it from here. The Coolest Cooler is the 3rd largest Kickstarter project of all time. At the time, it was actually the 1st. The concept was pretty simple. They were just trying to reinvent the boring old cooler and make it cool. but that was too hard, so they just made one for middle-aged white parents. And I'm telling you, this cooler had it all. It had a battery-powered blender so you could make mixed drinks, and it had a built-in cutting board so you can cut limes for your mixed drinks. It also had a built-in bottle opener in case you ran out of this stuff to make mixed drinks. So basically, if you were a borderline alcoholic, which you probably are because like I said, middle-aged white parents, this was the cooler for you. Oh, I almost forgot, the cooler also came with a waterproof Bluetooth speaker, because what everybody wants is just one more $20 portable Bluetooth speaker. The story of the coolest is now nearly a decade old, and there's tons of videos covering it in depth, so I'm just going to summarize it. Despite raising $13.2 million, which was 25,000% to their goal, the company only managed to fulfill about 2/3 of their 60,000 pre-orders. The troubling part is despite the fact 20,000 people didn't get the $200 cooler they helped create, Coolest was selling them with 2-day shipping on Amazon. Not sure how that happens. The situation actually got so bad and so messy that the state of Oregon Department of Justice had to step in. They did an investigation into the founder and forced him to pay a settlement to all of the 20,000 people who didn't get their cooler, but he only had to pay them $20 each, which is about 1/10 of what they originally paid. And reports show only about 7,000 people actually got that money. Now, do I think you could have seen it coming that giving 60,000 orders to a guy that was only looking to sell 200 coolers could lead to logistical problems? Yes, actually, I think anybody could have seen that coming. And I think Kickstarter's approach of, oh, well, it's not our fault and it's not our problem, it's kind of bullshit. If your company's whole thing is helping businesses launch products, then you have a duty of care to make sure they're not scamming people and they're not being set up to accidentally scam people, especially when that product is the largest on your platform. Literally the poster child of your website. They could have stepped in and been like, hey, you've gotten exponentially more orders than you anticipated. How do you plan to handle this and not accidentally scam people? But instead, Kickstarter just stepped in and said, whoa, that's a lot of money. Where's our cut? Literally any investigation into the founder would have shown he was not equipped to handle this. It was destined to go poorly, and Kickstarter was complicit with letting that happen. And partially, I think they're kind of responsible for it because of the second main problem, the broken business model. Look, I don't want to get all businessy on you guys, but I did pay a lot of money for a degree, and I need to get a return on that investment. The business model for products on Kickstarter is kind of broken. And by kind of broken, I mean it's absolutely I'll explain this just like everything was taught to me in business school, with a lot of pretty colors and some childlike analogies. So, say you want to start a lemonade stand, but it costs $100 to build the stand, buy the ingredients, and to hire a 6-year-old to sell the lemonade because nobody wants to buy lemonade from a dude in their 20s. Trust me. If you don't have $100, then you could borrow it from like your parents. And then once you sell enough lemonade, you pay them back. If you don't make enough to pay them back, then your parents are just out the money and they're going to resort to posting on Facebook about how disappointed they are in you and how they wish you'd stop making those silly internet videos. The other way to get $100 would be crowdfunding. In this case, you go around the whole town telling people you're selling lemonade, and it's going to be the best lemonade ever because you've reinvented the whole recipe. You can even throw in some nonsense about AI too to get people all excited. So you take money from the pre-orders for your lemonade and you use that to start your stand. The problem is you're spending your future money. If you run out of money too soon, then you can't make the lemonade that you already sold. Thankfully, that would never happen because this is just a hypothetical, except for the fact that's exactly what happened with Coolest and with Voder and with tons of other Kickstarter projects. The business model aims to help companies not take on debt by spending money that they haven't made yet. The business model only works if the companies price their projects accurately to reflect how much money they need to develop the project and to sustain it after launch. But do they do this? No, because why would they? Project founders are incentivized to lie. They lie to Kickstarter, they lie to the media, but most importantly, they lie to backers. See, Kickstarter works on an all or nothing funding model, meaning you need to hit 100% of the goal you set to get paid anything. It doesn't matter if you have 1% or 99%. If it doesn't hit 100%, you don't get any money. The logic is if a project needs a certain amount of money and it fails to reach that, then it's more likely to fail as a project and more people are going to get scammed. So if you make it all or nothing, then you alleviate that risk. In Kickstarter's defense, it was a great idea for both seconds that they thought about it, but in the elusive third second, you realize that people are just gonna lie. They're gonna lower the amount of money that they need to increase their chances of getting funded. The Coolest did this, lowering their goal from $125,000, which they failed to reach the first time, down to $50,000. PirateSoftware talked about why founders do this, and it's pretty eye-opening.
Do you want to know the big scam that you can pull? What does the news do, Chet? The news wants sensation. So what do you give it? Sensation. You set your Kickstarter to an amount of money that you know, based on your community size, you can reach within a 24-hour period, even if it's not the total amount of money that you need to make your game. Why do you do this? Because then the news picks it up and goes, wow, this indie game made it in 24 hours. And they do every time. Every single time. That's exactly how we did it. Yeah, play the media to your advantage. 100% do that.
The gaming of the system here is really unfair to backers because they're being frauded out of their money. I understand you want hype and attention and it's all marketing, but transparency needs to be at the core of the Kickstarter platform. And honestly, it just isn't. Kickstarter is adamant that you're the one taking the risk, which fundamentally is true. I mean, it's the whole point of the platform. But when you fund any investment, it's important to know the risk. Like, I know when I eat a gas station burrito that I'm risking creating such an abomination in the toilet later that day that I might have to send an apology card down to the sewage treatment plant. But what happens if you just lie about the risks? Nothing. Nothing ever happens. Kickstarter holds nearly no one accountable for frauding users on their platform. Next Thing Co., the company that made Voder and inevitably scammed me out of $56, $72.41 adjusted for inflation, had failed to fully deliver on their 2 previous projects. But don't worry, because according to Kickstarter, their trust and safety team tracks this kind of stuff. So what will they do if they find out the company that you backed isn't fulfilling their orders? Well, they'll remind them to post an update. And if it's really bad, like if there's sufficient evidence, they'll ban them. Way to go, Kickstarter. You banned them after you gave them my money. That'll show them. Kickstarter could be the big bad enforcer and set up a system on their platform to protect users. But instead, they choose to have the authoritative equivalence of a JROTC kid in high school. So why doesn't Kickstarter do anything? Well, let's take a look at how they make money, because at the end of the day, they are a business. Kickstarter makes money in 2 ways: their platform fee and their payment processing fee. For any successfully funded project, Kickstarter takes a flat 5% fee. So in the case of The Coolest, which raised over $13 million, Kickstarter kept about $650,000. Then on top of that, they have the payment processing fee. This varies slightly depending on the amount pledged by backers. Typically, it's another 3% plus 20 cents per pledge. This means Kickstarter got an additional $400,000, bringing their total to just over $1 million from this campaign alone. And if we compare that versus the first Coolest campaign, we see the problem. Kickstarter relies on you hitting your goal for them to get paid. On the surface, having your goals aligned sounds like a good thing. Kickstarter's incentivized to help you reach their goal because it will benefit them too. But Kickstarter's also incentivized to look the other way when you make your funding goal under half of the original just to make sure you can get paid this time. It also means they're incentivized to not act too swiftly when a company hasn't fulfilled goals from their first campaign and they're launching a third. Am I saying Kickstarter for sure is letting you get scammed just so they can make a little bit of extra money? No, I think that would be insane. But I do think they're financially motivated to cut corners because at the end of the day, it's you that loses money and it's the project that takes the fall. Never Kickstarter. I've really only focused on a single example in this video, but it's just because it's the best example of everything wrong with Kickstarter. But I need to mention it's not the only example. There was Pebble, a smartwatch which was, and weirdly still is, beloved by its fans. They relied too heavily on the crowdfunding model and eventually had to sell off to Fitbit, who discontinued their products. And there was also Ouya, the ultra-affordable console that promised to disrupt the TV gaming industry. But with a controller that felt like a McDonald's straw and no notable games, it was no surprise when after a few short years, the company went out of business. And now the Ouya is useless. And it's not that Kickstarter doesn't do anything ever. In some cases, like the Trailblazer razor, which was a complete scam, Kickstarter stepped in and shut it down. But if you make something somewhat realistic, like a voice control box for your car and not a lightsaber for your face, Kickstarter won't step in and do anything. I think it would be disingenuous of me to act like Kickstarter has done nothing positive. A lot of really interesting and creative projects have been created and exist probably solely because of Kickstarter. Because not every founder on the platform is a bad actor just trying to take advantage of it. Kickstarter is a cool platform and I like their objective. I just wish that they took their role a bit more seriously and fixed these major problems with their platform. If you're gonna build the bridge between founders and backers, you can't just sit back and collect a toll. But I want it to exist in a world where I actually got my goddamn voder. Like, how did that happen? They just disappeared. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and commenting down below. Now I'm going to get on my hands and knees and beg you to subscribe. Actually, I'm not going to do that, but if you could, that'd be cool.